President Bongbong Marcos vows to further improve disaster risk reduction efforts at the local and national levels after the country reeled from massive flooding caused by the recent spate of typhoons. In a video on Friday, November 1, Marcos notes that millions of Filipinos have been affected by severe tropical storm Christine and super typhoon Leon. According to Marcos, billions worth of damage were incurred by the infrastructure and agriculture sectors due to the recent onslaught of Christine and Leon, which he said have been exacerbated by climate change. Last week, Christine caused massive flooding in Luzon, particularly in the Bicol region, that led to the suspension of classes and government work in the area. While just this week, Super Typhoon Leon battered northern Luzon, especially Batanes province. Noting the Philippines' vulnerability to disasters and climate change, Marcos emphasizes the need to improve the planning of infrastructure projects as well as the disaster risk reduction efforts of the government to mitigate the impact on the communities.
Ang mabilis na pagresponde sa mga nasalanta ay mananatiling prioridad natin. Kasama ang DSWD, DND, DPWH, DILG at iba pang mga ahensya ng pamahalaan. Maaasahan ninyong pagtitibayin pa ang ating national at local disaster risk reduction at response.
Marcos notes that the country needs to be good in the field of disaster risk reduction to reduce casualties from natural disasters.
Kailangan natin maging magaling sa larangan na ito. Disaster risk reduction, both the public at saka private sector, para naman mabawasan ang mga napapahamak sa mga ganitong uri na sakuna.
Every year, about 20 storms and typhoons batter the Philippines, which sits at the heart of the Pacific Typhoon Belt. The president also assures the public that the government remains ready to render the necessary assistance to help those affected by the recent typhoons. Based on the latest report from the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council on Friday, over 7 million persons were affected by Christine and Leon. The agency adds that 150 were reported dead, more than 100 were injured, and 30 individuals are still missing. President Bongbong Marcos says that for his late father to truly rest in peace, he must continue the work that the late President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. started. In a speech following a mass before his father's grave at the libingan ng mga bayani in Taguig City on All Saints Day, Marcos says it won't be enough to just wish for his father to rest in peace.
Alam niyo, pagka meron tayong patay, nakalagay dyan, RIP, rest in peace. Siyempre, yan din ang ninanais natin para sa aking ama. Ngunit hindi sapat na sasabihin lang natin rest in peace. Para mag-rest in peace ang aking ama, kailangan ipagpatuloy natin ang trabahong sinimulan niya, ipagpatuloy natin ang pagpaganda ng Pilipinas at ang pagmamahal sa Pilipino.
The president visited his father's tomb together with his mother, former First Lady Imelda Marcos. Marcos also thanked the members of One Movement Incorporated, a group that supports her mother, for their presence and for paying respects to his late father. Meanwhile, in an interview after the mass, the president was asked to react on Vice President Sara Duterte's remarks that she would exhume the remains of the late Marcos Sr. and throw it into the West Philippine Sea. Marcos says he would rather not comment on Duterte's remarks. He adds that he would talk about the status of his relationship with Duterte some other time. On October 18, Duterte, in a press conference, revealed that she previously warned Senator Amy Marcos that she would dig up the body of Marcos Sr. and throw it to the West Philippine Sea if the attacks against her continue. In the same press conference, Duterte said that Marcos does not know how to be the president of the country. Marcos and Duterte were running mates in the 2022 elections. The Presidential Anti-Organized Crime Commission says that the suspected Philippine offshore gaming operator's hub in Bataan, which government authorities recently raided, appears to be engaged in black market banking. In a radio interview on Friday, November 1, Paocc spokesperson Director Winston Casio says that the raid operation done in Central 1 Bataan PH Incorporated in Bataan is out of the ordinary because there seems to be indicators of black market banking or the so-called underground banking. Casio notes that Central 1 is not an ordinary company. Casio adds that they discovered several red flags when they raided the company, pointing to the high possibility of it being actually a Pogo hub despite using the name BPO, which may be a front. Among these red flags are the long lines of mobile phones that supposedly receive payment system entries. Casio further says that they saw a gaming platform called Winbox during the raid. Kasha explains that the Winbox gaming platform is banned in other countries because it is flagged down as it is used in so-called cryptocurrency investment scams. According to Kasha, while the raid resulted in the arrest of the firm's big bosses, 5 individuals comprising of 4 Malaysians and 1 Thai national must still be found. In July, during his third State of the Nation address, President Bongbong Marcos ordered a ban on Pogos nationwide, which prompted a series of raids against offices or companies suspected to be operating as Pogo hubs. The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology reports a continuous degassing from the Kanlaon Volcano summit crater on Friday, November 1. According to Phivolcs, the ashing events were observed between 7:20 a.m. and 7:39 a.m., which lasted for 19 minutes. Phivolcs adds that there were no detectable seismic or infrasound signals recorded. State volcanologists further say that the events generated light gray plumes that rose 800 meters above the crater before drifting northwest-west. The degassing came a day after Phivolcs announced an increase in Kanlaon's seismic activity. On October 31, a total of 64 tectonic earthquakes were recorded by the Kanlaon Volcano Network. According to Phivolcs, volcanic tectonic earthquakes are generated by rock fracturing processes, and the increase in volcanic tectonic activity strongly indicates progressive rock fracturing beneath the volcano as rising magma drives a path towards the surface. Meanwhile, based on Phivolcs' bulletin on Friday, 84 volcanic earthquakes, 5,866 metric tons of sulfur dioxide emissions, and continuous ground deformation were logged from Kanlaon. Kanlaon remains to be under Alert Level 2, where entry within its 4-kilometer radius permanent danger zone is prohibited. State seismologists previously warned that the recently recorded seismic activity in Kanlaon may lead to eruptive unrest and an increase in the alert level. Marikina City Mayor Marcelino Teodoro reveals that a syndicate may be behind the illegal exhumation of remains in the Barangka Public Cemetery. In a radio interview on Friday, November 1, Teodoro says that the cemetery's administrator and several private individuals were conspiring to dig up the remains. Teodoro reveals that a syndicate were the ones who dig up the remains, where tombs that are left vacant are being sold. The Barangka Public Cemetery earlier said that 800 sacks of human remains were exhumed and are still unclaimed. The remains were reportedly exhumed after exceeding the 5-year rental period set by the local government of Marikina. But for Teodoro, the unburying was wrong as it violated the Philippine Sanitation Code. Teodoro also says he was worried that the alleged syndicate's modus operandi is not an isolated incident, as many people have also reportedly brought up the issue of unlawful exhumation of remains in their respective jurisdictions. According to Teodoro, charges have already been filed against erring individuals involved, but he did not disclose their names. Teodoro further says that the Marikina city government has notified families whose loved ones' remains were illegally exhumed, and that the local government is willing to offer free burial and cremation for the remains.